from 6 to 7 if you want to converse and have a chat and whatever before you get here. That's every first Thursday of the month. We'll be getting into that. And afterwards, so after today, after this gets done, we go back into the bar, have drinks, maybe 4 or 5 or 6, converse with people, and then pass out on the floor. You guys are welcome to do that. I'm giving you guys permission. So that's that. And as I mentioned, we're here first Thursday of every month. And let me ask you guys, how many of you guys are new today? By a show of hands. Awesome. Thank you for coming in. Sir, here's your rubber chicken. Thank you so much for coming. No, I'm just kidding. All right. All right. So like I was mentioning, first Thursday of every month, we are right here, same time, same place. And again, the best way that this can grow is by inviting people, bringing your friends, family, people that are interested in making money, finding ways to save your money with tax-free investments and things like that. So come on in. Our next month's meeting is going to be, of course, year-end strategies. Things to do for the following year. The guy that's going to be teaching, his name is Mark Calendars. Really good. No, mark your calendars. So November 6th, 2014, mark your calendars. And tonight's meeting is going to be Justin Williams. Interestingly enough, he's right here. Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
How many people are listening to your podcast and things like that now?
Since it's on demand, over time it grows, but on average, about 4,000 each episode. 4,000 each episode. And when did you start? About a year ago.
About a year ago.
October of last year.
I heard him speak the last time he was here. I have a feeling the reason he's doing so well is that he's not passing out rubber chickens when on his podcast or when you'll see him up here. He gives 100% of what he knows, he gives it away. He gives it away, whether you work with him or not. He's brilliant, and you get to see firsthand what it looks like when you're not passing out rubber chickens. So I'm really excited to see him. And he'll be on tonight, Justin Williams. He'll be talking about 9 tips to creating a 5-hour house flipping machine work week. It's going to be brilliant. I can't wait to hear it. So, your networking, your team. These are the people that you'll often find tonight. And would you like me to say anything? Like, show of hands or just go through it? Go through it. Sounds good. We got title reps. You know what? Just raise your hand while I'm going down. You can just quickly raise your hands. Title reps, past speakers, escrow companies, home inspectors, staging. We got any contractors in here? Appraisers, property managers, notary, private lenders, self-directed IRA reps. Yeah, I knew that's going to raise some hands. We got attorneys. Any attorneys in here? Marketing companies, financial advisors. Cool, we got a couple here. Real estate agents. Yep. Mortgage brokers, CPAs. Awesome. So look around, and again, ask when you get out there, see what people do, and see how they can help you. What to expect from tonight. You're going to meet your hosts, Daryl and Imran, who run Phoebe. You're going to meet some of our sponsors. Ted is going to talk about something regarding technology, how to make your life easier with technology. You're going to get some market updates. The book of the month, we're going to do, if we have time, a deal profile. And Justin Williams, our speaker, is going to speak. We're going to do a quick Q&A, wrap it up, get to the bar. And real quick, I didn't ask you guys, how many of you guys know what this is? Who said that? Give this man a round of applause. You get my book. Thank you so much. That was amazing. All right. And with that being said, let's bring up the people that run this, Phoebe, Imran, and Daryl.
Appreciate it.
Of course.
So I'm Daryl.
I'm Imran. Hello, everybody.
Welcome. Hey, we appreciate you guys coming out. I know you guys could be watching TV or something else, but you guys are here, so thank yourselves, because hopefully we're going to give some good content, can take something away from this, and then meet new people. This is all about networking, getting to know each other, and building your business. So, just a little bit about us. As you can see on the screen, we do a lot of creative deals. We do partnerships. We work with a lot of people here in the room. We put a lot of money to work. We flip houses. And we also buy and hold houses as well for cash flow.
And we do a lot of partnerships with folks as well. So whether you got money or whether you got deals or you've got inspiration, talk to us. It really is about relationships, building network. We can only get so much done by ourselves. So I think Justin's going to really get into this evening about, one person can't do it all, and Justin has just taken it to a level that I haven't seen anybody else do with relationship building and automating his business and relationships. So utilize this.
We're part of the 4,000 listeners here, so he's had us on his podcast as well. So definitely some great information there. We're building homes. We're starting to do that, and Imran's a former scientist in the biotech world. Yeah,
maybe we'll tell you a little bit where we came from. It's just sort of help people sort of identify with us. There's folks here that are real experienced, kind of experienced, not at all looking to break into real estate investing or entrepreneurship. So we've got different backgrounds but the same passion and share the same values. So my background was I went the traditional route of, if you read that little purple book by Kiyosaki, that was one of my first inspirations of, you go to school, you get a good education to train you to get a job, and you work for W-2 and you work in that box. And so that was me, and I did that to a high level, right? So I ended up getting my PhD in molecular and cell biology here in San Diego, worked 10 years in biotech. But I always rebelled against, I wasn't really the best employee. I was very effective. I mean, I'd get Employee of the Year, but I could tell the CEO was just waiting for a reason to fire me because I was always off doing something else.
He was out doing real estate investing is what he was doing.
So ultimately, but I also went through 3 jobs in 2 years. That was the big fire under my butt. That I'm like, wow, with all this education and getting, a 6-figure job, there was no security. That's really what it was for me. No security, no real retirement plan that was going to work. So that was my inspiration to break free from that and do for myself. So that's my background, and in that I met Daryl.
Yeah, and I come from the opposite. I also have a PhD. I have a public high school diploma, and of course, that doesn't go far in this world. And I didn't really have, nobody taught me what dreams and goals were and the road to success. So I was jumping from job to job, but in these jobs I kind of found myself being an entrepreneur and didn't really know what an entrepreneur was until somebody actually read the definition to me after I got started in real estate. So I found a sign on the side of the road, said Real Estate Investor Seeks Apprentice. They introduced me to the book, Robert Kiyosaki, of course, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it completely changed my mindset and changed my world. So from there, I got the bug. I couldn't stop. I kept going, and kept going to the point where I knew I was going to make money in this. I left my job, knew I was going to do it, and I went homeless with my 3 kids and my wife. We ended up living at my mother-in-law's house. Mother-in-law.
Munster-in-law.
So she, on a daily basis, would say, give up your dream, get out of my house, go get a job, and I don't want to see you. So we did some creative deal structuring, and we were able to close our first deal, and I ended up moving out, of course. But I still have the bug, still have the dream, and we're on our way. So,
yeah, actually, oddly enough, I saw the same sign. That's how our paths
And that's
converged.
actually how our paths crossed. So we got educated, realized that there's a lot of personal development that goes into what we do, a lot of sales that go into what we do. We got to learn how to connect with people, and
roll up your sleeves and work. And we're gonna. That's actually going to be a theme this evening. You'll see it kind of sneak in, work and discipline. Okay, so that's a little bit about who we are.
Just a little disclosure, we are not tax advisors, attorneys, legal professionals, or financial advisors. We are strictly real estate investors, although Imran does have a broker's license. So he's a little more tied down than I am right now until I get my license. But if you do receive any documents from us, any slides, these slides will be available on meetup.com. I'll show you where to go later on as well. So if you miss anything, they'll be available for you guys. But review all the documents with your legal and professional advisors if you get like purchase contracts or anything you find from the web.
Bottom line is, we are responsible for nothing, and you are responsible for everything, right? So do your own due diligence.
So right now, part of the reason why we're able to do this is because we have sponsors. A lot of the sponsors actually we've worked with as well, and we'd like to bring them up real quick and have them tell them about themselves, maybe about 30 seconds, and maybe you can add them to your team as well. So guys, why don't you come on up?
And give a round of applause for our sponsors. We need to appreciate them. I know you hear it all the time, but they are what makes this room available.
I get the red mic. You get the boom mic. Hi, good to see you. Welcome everybody. My name is Andrew Reed and I am the owner of Glass at WB. I make glass whiteboards. These guys right here. So you will see a nice demonstration of this tonight. If you want afterwards, you can come up and draw on it and see what the difference is between glass and regular whiteboards. I also have some flyers and business cards in the back. Thanks.
What's your number?
My number is 760-805-6669. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
All right, I'm Brian Davis with AccuPlan. I do self-directed IRAs and solo 401ks. How many of you here are self-employed? All right, good half of you. How many of you have a solo 401k account? Oh, very small number of you. So a solo 401k is a self-employed 401k plan that you can have. You can write up to $112,000 a year if it's you and your spouse involved. And then you can use that to invest in deals, not your own deals, but real estate deals in your own. So come talk to me. I got flyers in the back. I also help people do checkbook IRAs. My number is 619-892-2438, or email me at briandavis@accuplan.net, or check out my website, accuplansandiego.com. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
Before I introduce myself, what's the largest number on the screen?
Trillion.
Thank you. So trillion's a lot. Our average loan, we're a hard money lender. My name's David Weiner. Our average loan's about $350,000. So how many of those loans do we have to do to meet our goal? That's a lot. So help a brother out, come do business with us, and help us reach our goals. We do fix and flip loans. That's our specialty. And we're also doing new construction, smaller 1-2 spec homes. So think of us, fast, reliable, and competitively priced. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gabby Benavides with UDirect IRA Services, and we teach people how to use their self-directed IRAs to invest in alternative assets. Some of these are real estate, promissory notes, tax liens, and if you want more information, I give you a reach at 949-445-9633. I also have flyers and brochures in the back. Thanks.
Thanks, Gabby.
Hi there, my name is Brock Vandenberg. I'm with Talamar Financial. We're right in the middle of the screen right there. We're a hard money lender. We specialize in financing fix and flips, ground up construction deals, also cash out on commercial real estate. If you need a hard money lender that can close quickly, give me a call. My number is 858-613-0111 extension 1. Again, Talamar Financial. Also, you can invest in the trust deeds that we originate. Trust deeds that we originate typically return to the investor between 9 and 10%. Check out our website, learn more about it at talamarfinancial.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Brock.
Hi there. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Belinda Savage, and I'm an educator and a facilitator to actually raise capital for you and your projects with tax-deferred dollars, and I will meet with you one-on-one, and we can discuss how you can do that. But also I want to bring to your attention a very fine educational forum that's coming up on November 1st and 2nd here in Anaheim. It's called the REI Expo, and it is the #1 educational venue in the country, and this is a $50 discount card there in the back, and it'll be on November 1st and 2nd. It's a Saturday and Sunday. There's going to be about 60 vendors, and there'll be workshops continuously for those 2 days. So come on out and get lots of great education about private notes and real estate.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, Belinda.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm not a sponsor, but I'm here to promote the North San Diego Real Estate Investors Association. We're one of the other 3 clubs here in the county. We meet on the 3rd Tuesday of each month up in Oceanside at the El Camino Country Club. On your tables is the announcement for our next presentation. It's Jay Sherman. Many of you know him because he's, well, he's a speaker, but he's also sitting in the seats at all these meetings, and he's going to talk to us next month about partnerships, profit, persistence, and you. So that's on Tuesday, October 21st. And one other quick thing, we have our members-only holiday dinner. There's some flyers at the back of the room. It's got the Christmas garland or wreath up at the top. If you would like to attend that, the opportunities are still available. So just keep us in mind if you're looking for other venues in addition to this great club here. Thanks.
Thanks, Bruce. Yeah, SDCIA is another investment club down in San Diego, and they meet on the second Tuesday.
First Tuesday, who remembers?
I think it's second Tuesday of every month. Bill Tan runs that club. It's another great event. They always have great speakers as well, so look those guys up.
And there's a Note Investors Club that just started recently also. Look that up. So I think those are the 4 clubs you really want to make sure that you attend.
Right.
Ours included.
So next up, we have a gentleman by the name of Ted Ricasa, and he's going to talk a little bit about his, what is it today, outsourcing? Outsourcing. Okay. So he's going to talk a little bit about how to streamline your business, actually, which goes right in hand with maybe what Justin's doing. So take good notes and welcome Ted Ricasa.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I have a feeling that Justin probably has some experience with this. So I'm going to talk about outsourcing, and outsourcing probably not in the way that people generally think about it. I did outsourcing many, many years ago, and it was a really bad experience. And for a long time, I really stayed away from the concept of outsourcing. But the concept of outsourcing really is just if you're not using your own employees, you're not insourcing, then you're outsourcing. So conceptually, it makes sense. Why should you outsource? Well, and I put some where's the little. Fast, easy, and inexpensive. I put asterisks by them because you can really screw it up, and you got to kind of get in there and do a little trial and error. But it can be really fast, really easy, really inexpensive. It's scalable. All of these things down here mean no employees, no taxes, no wage, no overtime, none of those rules, which are a nightmare, as most of you probably know. So let me introduce you to a really easy concept of small jobs that cost $5 each. So anybody in this room can do this, and what I want to do is kind of give you an idea of different types of outsourcing that anybody in this room can do at any stage of your business. This one's really, really interesting and really neat. For $5, you can get a logo, you can get business cards done, letterhead, flyers, handouts, postcards. There's all kinds of wacky things. You can get a 15-second commercial. There's a site online, it's called Fiverr. And you go on there, and for $5 you can buy a whole bunch of stuff. It started off, I see a couple of giggles, it started off with some really weird stuff that people would do for $5. But they call them gigs. Here's the website itself. So you can go in here and you can either search for something or click on the categories. But here I clicked on logo. So for $5, this person says, I'll design a unique text logo, I'll do an amazing 3D logo, I'll do a professional logo. So you could potentially get a logo for $5. I would probably say that if you go in and try to buy one for $5, it might not come out to your liking. So buy 10. Spend $50, get 10 of them, and you might actually get a good logo out of it. Business cards. I went to the business card category, and you can see all the different people that are willing to design business cards for you for $5. Then I went into the search box and I typed in real estate. And when you type in real estate, for $5, you see a whole bunch of different things that people are doing. These guys are saying they'll do letterhead, flyers, posters. So there's a whole bunch of things that people do for $5. Really what happens in the background, a lot of these folks want to get your business for $5 and then partner with you and upsell you and actually start to do more business with you, some of the more successful ones. But you can do you can get somebody to sing happy birthday to your friend for $5. It's kind of neat. For $5 you get them a really kind of interesting birthday present. Now, moving on up to kind of anybody in the room, any size job, from $5 to $5 million, you can go in and you can outsource online. And technology is really what makes this happen. In the past, you really didn't have all of the tools to make it easy to communicate and see how good people were and review people and that sort of thing. But the technology makes it really, and to pay people and to put stuff into escrow so you don't pay them until they do what they say they're going to do. So all of those tools, I'm trying to keep it high level, but the technology is what makes all this available. So if you need to do a website or a newsletter, video, magazine ad, even an application or a database or something more complex, there's a site called Elance. And I have used Elance in the past with sometimes not so good results and sometimes some really great results. But obviously they're doing well. They just merged with another big company called Odesk. They have 3 million freelancers and 1 million businesses using them. So you can really go into Elance and get almost anything you want there. Now, one thing about Elance, it's for everything possible. What's interesting about what's happening in the marketplace is everything's getting really vertical. So there's actually, if you're looking for a web designer, there's places to go and get web designers only, or writers only, or whatever it is that you're looking for. It's really starting to kind of break into those verticals. But Elance is kind of the biggest marketplace for anything.
They did our logo.
They did your logo, there you go. So they outsourced their logo through Elance. How much did it cost, by the way? Remember? $100.
We bid it out, so we had different logo designers bidding for the job.
It's interesting, yeah. So again, part of the technology, you go in, you post your job, you let people bid it, and then they'll give you examples of their work. You can read reviews of them. The technology is really fabulous. It's really come a long way. This is Elance's website. They have a bunch of different categories you can click on, and here's what we're talking about. So here you can go in. I typed in real estate, and some writers came up. And these writers talk about how many jobs they've done, exactly what their background is, and then you get their star rating, and you can read what people say about them. So you don't have to kind of go out there and connect with some stranger. You have a little bit of assurance that people have used them before and people are giving them that the backing. I went in and I typed in real estate on Elance through the search box, and I see postcards, magazine ads, websites, more websites. So you can do anything that you might need as a small business through Elance. And then the final piece is something called microtasks, or HITs, human intelligent tasks. So this is where it gets a little more complicated. These are things that machines can't do, or computers can't quite do. So an idea is like mailing list, and you guys are trying to send your mailing list and you got to dedupe it. You can't really get a machine to do that. Even today, with all of the technology, machine doesn't do that very well. So you can pay cents. So you could say, for example, I'll pay you 5 cents for every duplicate you pull out of my list. Or you could say, I'll pay you 10 cents for every record you pull out of the public records. Whatever it is that you might need a human to do multiple times, really small things, that's what you would use this. You can monitor the MLS, monitor property radar. I know a lot of that stuff you can automate, but things that you can't, you can use this site called Amazon's Mechanical Turk. So Amazon invented it. They invented it because they have so much data and so many products that they were getting a bunch of duplicate products. Now today they have better technology to find these duplicates, but back then they didn't. So they decided, hey, let's just hire a bunch of people and pay them 10 cents, a nickel a piece, and let them find it for us. And that's what they did. So it's called Mechanical Turk. The website itself isn't a whole lot to look at, but it's really interesting. It's for things that cost cents, machines can't do, and I never knew what Mechanical Turk meant until this presentation. So I always learn something too. A Mechanical Turk was actually a real thing. So this was about 1770s to the early 1800s. This guy made this machine, and he claimed it could play chess. And he played Napoleon, and he played Benjamin Franklin, and everybody thought it was this crazy, crazy thing. Well, actually, he had a little seed inside, and he was controlling it. So I thought it was a little bit apropos to this conversation, because the whole idea of outsourcing seems super complex and super mysterious, but with the technology out there today, it's really not as mysterious as it once was. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Great ideas. Thank you, Ted.
Welcome.
All right. We're going to talk a little bit about the market and what's going on with it right now. We'll go quickly through it, but has anybody noticed, anybody that's doing real estate transactions, have you guys noticed a change in the market over the last couple of months? Right. So this is actually from Property Radar, a subscription we use for part of our business. And the bloom off the California real estate rose August 2014. Sales were down 13.5% from August of 2013. So basically things have slowed down year over year. And we'll just get right into it. Home sales. In August of 14, home sales have been dropped over July, as you can see, and we've noticed it too. We put a few houses on the market, and we're used to seeing offers within days, if not the same day, multiple offers. Lately, now we're having to wait weeks, even a couple of months. So things are definitely ticking in a different direction. So it's a good idea to keep an eye on what's going on. Year over year home sales, down 13.5%. Non-distressed home sales down 5%. But the distressed property sales, that's a big number. They're down 40% year over year. So going after and finding these easy deals, they're not around anymore. You've got to get in, you got to network with the right people. You've got to sit down in front of homeowners, the right homeowners. So you've really got to get a niche and get into it. Did that move on me? I think it did. Okay. One more, here you go. Equity. A lot of the equity in these homes have come back. A lot of people that were in negative equity situations are no longer in a negative equity. Imran and I started our business with short sales. Short sales are pretty much obsolete right now. We've had to shift gears, change our marketing, and go after different types of investments that we're doing now. And Brian, you've been around for a while, and you've kind of seen the same thing, right? All right. So 11.6 of California homeowners, about 1 million homes are underwater. Compared to last year, I believe it was like 2.5 million. So we definitely took a big hit now. And people now that don't have, or that have equity that didn't have it before, they're a lot more likely to fix themselves out of a bad situation so they can keep their home. Before, if you're 50% underwater, it's a lot easier to walk away from your home than it is to walk away, in today. This just represents the volume of sales compared to the percentage year over year, and the percentage of cash sales have dropped dramatically compared to the actual number of the cash sales. And again, this is sales volume. People that are flipping homes, you can see a pretty big drop from last year to this year. And even coming through the summertime, you can see a little bit of it. Keep hitting the wrong one. You can see a little bit of a dip right here coming into August. So the summer was a pretty tough summer when normal home sales are pretty high. This is the markets that are purchased by LLCs and LPs, so businesses and companies like Imran and I. Again, they've taken a pretty big hit. We've taken a little bit of a hit. We're not putting as many properties under contract. Again, shifting gears, going towards people with equity, other types of distressed sales. And then the market sales. So after we bought the house, we fixed it up, and we're reselling it. Again, the percentages are a lot lower than they were year over year. Trustee sales. This is, again, people, companies and corporations going after homes that have gone into foreclosure. Big difference here. The number of properties purchased by an LLC compared to the percent of the trustee sales that are selling to a third party. So you can see a big disparity between people like ourselves that are buying it, and in the red area generally means they're going back to the bank. So banks are asking way too much for their homes. There's not enough room in there to buy them. Therefore, a lot of the LLC, they're not buying as many as they used to. And then foreclosure notices, and the foreclosure notices and the trustee notices in the green and the blue here, they've actually lined up. That's a big number to look at, because if you think about the way that when trustee sales are going on, people can redeem themselves or get out of a bad situation. And right now it's showing that notice of default turns into trustee sale actually gets foreclosed on. Inventories are pretty steady across the board, but we're still down 24% scheduled for sale. Pre-foreclosures are down 16% year over year. And however, they're up about 5.5% since last month. So in a nutshell, demands have declined, inventory has increased, and we've definitely changed the direction in the market. Not big, but we've seen a little bump, and prices have quit going up. They tend to overshoot in either direction here in California, so it'll be a couple months till we kind of level out and reach an equilibrium. Interest rates, those are still at all-time lows, but the feds are pushing to bump those interest rates up. If that happens, we're going to see a lot less buyers out there on the market. So
quantitative easing coming to an end.
Yes.
Right.
All right. So how do you get involved in this fix and flip and real estate market? Go get educated, network, take action, keep coming to clubs like this, NSDREI and SDCIA. So well, that's it for the market updates. And I'm going to bring Imran up. He's going to talk a little bit about Book of the Month, a few minutes, and then we'll move on.
Thanks, Daryl. Appreciate the market update. Yeah, it sounds like real scary news. Market's going down, blah, blah, blah. But, I even give you more scary news is there's some really smart people that think we're due for a serious burst in the bubble coming 2015. Whether it's going to happen or not, who knows? People that have been predicting markets and cycles have been spot on for the last decade or even 2 decades, are a little bit, taken aback by how not everything is going as cycles would predict. But some folks are saying that as much as a 15 to 20% rush down in median price in 2015 sometimes. So who knows? But the good news is, when Daryl and I started really rocking and rolling in our business, that was back when prices were dropping 1 or 2% a month, and we were flipping houses and making money. So don't let it stop you. Actually, bad news is good news to us, because it freaks everybody else out, and that's when we make money. But be smart, okay? So we're doing this thing, Daryl and I, called Book of the Month. We got into this book club, reading a book a week, and this one's taken longer. I actually hadn't read this one before. A lot of them in the club I read before. I do a lot of reading. Jim Rohn, almost everybody knows him. If you don't, you should. And I actually hadn't read this book, and it is packed. It's taken me a long time to read because I can't scan it. It's like every single sentence is like an aha. So it's really worth reading. But I'm going to focus on just his first chapter and some concepts, and it's real important to everything in your life. And rather than write a whole bunch of stuff down in a slide, I'm just going to read some excerpts from the first 2 or 3 pages. So chapter 1 is a magic word. If you can't read it, it says discipline. Discipline is everything in your business, in your life, in your health, in your relationships. Okay, so just a few little quotes from the book, and just to whet your appetite, go read it to really get into it. But remember, all good things are located upstream from us. That means you can't just sit around and wish it to happen. You've got to go out there and make it happen. And the way you do that is through continuous, focused effort in a particular direction. He talks about 3 magic keys to discipline. So the first key to discipline is awareness of the need and the value of discipline, especially the discipline to make the necessary changes. And I think most of us don't really have a problem with that. I think, we all are aware that discipline is important, right? Okay. The second key is willingness. More than that, it is the eagerness to maintain your new discipline deliberately, wisely, and consistently. Okay, I think this is where a lot of us start to fall short, right? Everybody in this room, you're either you're very successful entrepreneurs, or you're entrepreneurs at heart want to get into it. And one thing about the entrepreneurial spirit is that we are all kind of at heart rebels too, right? We're rebelling against our jobs. In a way, it's kind of rebelling against structure, rebelling against work. But work and structure actually are important. I think we all appreciate that it's necessary. So we've got to fight that inner rebellious nature so that we don't rebel against ourselves. And I think that's where the willingness comes in, okay? The third key to discipline is the commitment to master the circumstances of your daily life. Okay, so it's about commitment. There's the willingness to do it, then you got to really commit to the process. So one interesting thing about discipline, it's habits. There's the last thing I'm going to read from this book, is it's not an overnight thing, okay? But as soon as you acquire a new habit and take the discipline to put that habit into motion and to keep doing it, you're not going to instantaneously change your destination. That destination occurs over time, but you will instantaneously change your direction at the moment you impose that discipline. So you can get instant results that way, okay? And something popped into my head, and I'm trying to remember this fellow's name, who said something really interesting in a news interview I was watching years ago. So I'm going to see if anybody can remember his name for me. Okay, you all know Oprah Winfrey, right? What's the name of her husband? What's that? Say again? Stepman? Yeah, does that sound right? Okay, you know, Oprah, super mega successful, inspirational, right? Everybody knows Oprah, but her husband, in his own right, is a very successful, interesting person. Just next to Oprah, you wouldn't notice as much, right? But he's quite an interesting guy. I was just watching some news interview, and this was years ago, and he said something, and it was just one of those ahas. And the thing about ahas is it's things that you already know inside, and somebody just kind of shines some light on it and just brings it to the surface. And he said something and just brought it right to the surface. I'm like, of course, yeah. And it applies to discipline, it applies to everything in your life. And it's that going upstream, because the opposite of that is if you don't do anything, there's a little nerdy, Stephen Hawking-ish type nerdy term called entropy. Things will fall apart if you don't apply attention to it. So if you put attention to it, you create the structure, you create the discipline. If you don't pay attention to it, they will fall apart. And what he said was, the things that you focus your attention on consistently will expand and grow and get better, and you'll prosper. The things that you don't pay attention to will wither and die. He said that applies to your business, that applies to your relationships, that applies to your health. And I think the difference between that, paying attention, not paying attention, is discipline. So with that, read the book. Discipline's important. I want to get that across to you. Thank you very much. Let's just take this.
Who here has done a real estate fix and flip over the last, let's say, 3 months? Got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So this part of the presentation, then we'll get right on to Justin, is people like you guys that are out in the audience doing these deals. We actually asked you guys to come up and do a quick presentation, show us about the deal, whether you made money or not, that's okay. But there's an educational piece. So we're going to invite our good friends Jason and Brian. They started coming to this club just like you guys did several years ago, and now they're off on their own. They're doing some great deals, making some good money. So let's welcome Brian and Jason. Jason Smith and Brian Pageant.
Since there are two of you, pick your favorite one.
I'm Jason. How you guys doing? Partner Brian over here.
Hey, everybody.
So we created J&B House Solutions and partnered up probably over a little year ago.
Yep.
We're both doing our own thing and decided to team up, and it's been rolling pretty good. So with this property, actually got this deal from a realtor that actually comes to this club, which is Diane Oliver. She actually that night I didn't even feel like we didn't even want to come to the club. We had a busy day. Ended up coming to the club, and she happened to have a deal that she was looking to give to somebody. It was an off-market deal, and she's like, "Hey, you know, I might have a perfect deal for you guys." And we ended up getting this property in Terrasana. So anyways, this property's Terrasana. Got it through a realtor here. Let's see, the owner was in jail, so is actually needed a quick sale. They had a lot of liens on the property. She was a big-time drug dealer. House was really thrashed, just tons of work needed. Exit strategy is fix and flip. So with the offer, negotiation, and financing, she had lots of equity. I think she only owed like 20 grand. And since she's in jail, I think the bank was about a month away from foreclosing on her. So they needed a cash investor to come in and purchase it pretty quick. So documents we used were purchase agreement, was that joint venture agreement, first and second trustees. It had multiple liens on the property, so that was another issue with closing quickly. We were going to close in like 10 days, and the bank and her couldn't get the liens taken care of fast enough, so we kept charging them per diem $66 a day for every day they were late on us closing on the property, which kind of motivated her to get...
Yeah, the challenge was because she was in jail, so every time they needed to get a signature from her, they had to go and get, you know, somebody to approve the realtor to go into the jail and get things signed, so it just kind of drug out. Yeah.
So yeah, very little negotiation as the seller, needed out quickly. We were willing to close in 10 days with our private lenders that we had in place to help us fund the deal. And yeah, it was just sold as is. So go ahead, Brian.
So as far as the financing went, we had a first position private money loan for $200,000 at 12%, no points. And then we did a second position private money loan for $150,000. It was a 0% interest loan because we formed a joint venture agreement with the person that funded the second. And then Jason and I brought in all of the renovation costs. So, and then we split the closing costs between us and the seller. So this is kind of a little bit of before and after. You can see there, that's really the living room, full of junk. When we got in there, there were needles, there were arrest records, booking receipts and stuff from the people that had been crashing there that got out of jail. It was pretty trashed. They had tried to do a whole bunch of stuff, like construction stuff. There were holes in the walls. We heard that they were like paranoid, so they were like poking holes in the walls looking for secret stuff that was hiding out, and I don't know what they were doing, but it was about a $37,000, yeah, it was about a $37,000 renovation. It really wasn't that bad. It was just, it looked really ugly when we got in there, but for the most part, it was, you know, pretty standard stuff. Most of the costs were in the, you know, the kitchens, the baths, paint, that kind of stuff. A few more before and after pictures. That's the kitchen before, kitchen after. Living room, dining area, kind of looking back towards the back of the house before and after. And master bathroom, more dining. So we purchased it for $346, put about $38,000 into it. All in, we were about $388,700. We sold it for $485. When we purchased the property, we thought our ARV on it was going to be somewhere around $465. So the numbers we knew were going to be a little bit tight going into it. But as we were going through the rehab, there were some other properties within the same community that had been selling for much higher than what we had anticipated they were going to sell for. So we actually ended up getting $485 out of it.
We knew we had a prime location. We were right by a park. So we knew we had a good property.
Yeah, right outside the front door was a park area with a playground and stuff. It was a real family-oriented community in Terrasana. We ended up making about $55,000 on the deal. Took us about 4 months, key to key. So it went really well, actually. We had a little bit of challenge in the end with the buyer, but other than that, they're first-time home buyers and they were kind of picky, but it went well. So really the final thoughts on this, build your relationships with your realtors because that's where we got it. We also built a relationship with the seller's agent who knew that all he needed was somebody that could come in, be patient with the seller and her situation and close quickly, and we did that. Leverage your partnerships, grow grow, think outside the box, and just don't stop taking action. Come to the meetings even when you're tired, because you never know what you're going to find, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Thanks. Congratulations.
A couple of comments about that. One, after hearing the kind of people that were in that house, you know, they sound kind of like tweakers, right? Ended up in jail, a lot of drugs. And then the location of the house, right across the park, lots of kids and everything. How appreciative were your neighbors for changing the situation in that house?
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. Not just the neighbors, but the HOA was just like this.
Oh yeah, the HOA was.
I can't tell you how many times they told us how much.
Very appreciative.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. They're their heroes.
Another way to create relationships.
Stream. And I was just telling Justin, this just reminded me, it was a deal I missed about 5 years ago on my own street, actually, because I didn't realize what happened. But there was a house, suddenly the guy had just sort of disappeared, never showed up home, and then it had a flood. Somebody else had already locked that thing down, and an investor came in and bought it. And I found out later the backstory on it. So the owner on my own street, which is, you know, I do live in a decent neighborhood, the guy was had big marijuana crops up in the hills way back, and he was out there tending his crops one weekend and got nabbed by the cops and thrown in jail. So that might be, you know, another source of leads, is kind of find out who's in jail and where they live, and see what, you know, just kind of watch the house, right?
Right.
Yeah. So anyway,
Find the attorneys.
if you're looking for, you know, sources of property, you know,
So if you guys have a deal, you guys want to come share it with us on stage, you know, we'd be happy to have you guys up here. Just email us, SanDiegoInvestmentClub@gmail.com. So again, next month's events, year-end tax strategies. Is it, how do you pronounce her name? Luann Ling. So finally, we've been waiting for this all night.
No further ado.
Yes. Justin Williams, he's a good friend of ours. We've gone back quite a ways. We've actually recently wholesaled a deal to him. This is one of our properties that we just couldn't tend to. So
it's up in his neighborhood.
It's up in his neighborhood.
Yeah.
So he got a good deal on it. We made a little bit of money. It's a great relationship, and not to mention, great family man, wife, kids, and he doesn't work as hard as we do, and he'll show you why.
Yeah.
So please welcome Justin Williams. You want the lav mic?
Whatever.
You got a mic on you? You want one?
No,
of
I
these?
don't have one. I don't care. Yeah, either way. I like the red, white, and blue. You know, keep the theme going, right? How's everybody doing tonight? You guys ready to get this house flipping party started, or what? You know, just over 5 years ago, I went to my very first real estate investment club, and it happened to be just up north a little bit at SDIC. And to be honest, when I first showed up, I was a little disappointed. There were no flashing lights and loud music. And then the speaker gets up there, and he's just sitting there, doesn't have a PowerPoint, and he like lifts up his glasses every time he looks up, and then he looks down to read. And this guy's name was Mike Cantu. At first, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so boring. But then I started listening to what he was saying, and I was like, holy cow, this guy knows his stuff, and he's just sharing it all with me. And I was blown away. You know, I went to this club expecting to get pitched on like some $40,000 seminar or something, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna go. My friend Rich kept begging me to go, and I was blown away. And I went home that night. Actually, I talked to Mike that same night and asked him about all the clubs in the area, and I went to like 8 clubs over the next month, and I just kept pinching myself. I was like, seriously? Like $20? And these guys that have created incredible wealth are getting up here and just sharing it all with me. And so, I mean, give a round of applause for these guys. This is not easy. It's a lot of work, what these guys put together. Seriously, I felt like it was like this underground secret society, you know, that I was a part of and nobody else knew about. I mean, it's really incredible, the things that you guys are able to learn here. So thank you guys. And my presentation isn't working, so. Yeah, no big deal. So tonight the topic is 9 tips to a 5-hour house flipping work week. Okay? Who would like to learn how to do that? How to create a 5-hour house flipping work week. So I've been flipping houses for about 7 years now. During that time, I've flipped close to 400 houses, probably about 375 houses, and we're currently flipping about 100 houses per year, all systematized. I put about 5 hours a week into my house flipping business. Now, I do work more than 5 hours a week because, of course, I don't know about you guys, who in here has entrepreneur brain and like gets totally like, always has ideas, right? So that's how I am. So I create this business, create this lifestyle, and then what do? I create another business. But I'm grateful for it. I love it. I love educating, and that's what I spend most of my time on lately. I've been spending about 50 hours a week. Who's listened to my podcast? Awesome. Okay, good stuff. Please don't ask me to sing. At an SDREI, they got me to sing the other night. I sing on my podcast, try to keep it entertaining. So, how are we looking?
Good.
Yeah, close that. Cool, we're good to go. All right. Okay, let's rock. Yeah, okay. Yeah, wait. Yeah, it works. Okay, cool. All right. There we go. If that's not anticlimactic, what is? All right, let's get re-energized. All right, welcome everybody. Okay. So the topic is how I went from broke, working 70 hours a week, to a 7-figure income working 5 hours a week. And this has literally been within the last few years. So it's not like I did this 20 years ago or 30 years ago. This is literally, this is what's happening. I walked in, I think Imran said I'm dressed nicer than last time. I couldn't afford these clothes before. No, I'm just teasing. So, of course, we only have an hour tonight, so I won't be able to go over everything, but for those of you, some of you may have a flyer, I ran out. I'm doing my very first seminar on October 25th, and the price, the early bird special is, what does that say, $397? If you put in the code FLIP, that's just for people in this room, so don't tell anybody. If you put in the code FLIP for the next 3 days, you can get another $100 off that. And the caliber of people that I'm bringing to the seminar is incredible. I mean, it's literally a charity event. You guys are going to be there, right? Awesome. It's pretty much a charity event. These things are expensive. I had no idea. And I'm flying people in, and I'll never do another seminar like this for this price. I'm committed to it. I'm going to do it good because I won't do anything else. So if you can make it, you may learn something that could change your life. And hopefully you learn something tonight that could change your life as well. I do a little bit of coaching. I'm not going to talk too much about that tonight. But when I spoke at NSDREI, everyone kept asking me, so I just wanted to put it up here. Failfastflipping.com. It is a education program and a mastermind group in one, and it doesn't come with the $25,000 price tag. It's like 1/10 of that, or less than 1/10. It's like $1,500. If you put in the code 1 year. It's been 1 year since we started House Flipping HQ, you can get $500 off. All right, let's get going. So 2006, I found myself in Bakersfield, California, living in a 2,000 square foot home with my wife, my 6-month-old son, and 6 other single adults, including my brother, my wife's brother and his fiance, another satellite dish installer for the company that I owned at the time, which I wish at the time I hadn't owned, and a sales rep that would occasionally come and sleep on the couch from time to time. Not only that, we just moved in on a whim, practically overnight from Utah, because my company was in financial dire. I had a satellite dish business company at the time, and we had $120,000 of debt. And we just had a failed partnership. My partner didn't do his part, what he was supposed to do. And we cut ties. I let about 8 employees that I had in Utah go, and I just moved to Bakersfield, and I had to get rid of this debt. I didn't have an option. BK was not an option. It was friends and family that I borrowed this money from, and I had to make something happen. I recall a specific day in Bakersfield. I see the street like it was yesterday. The weather was about 110 degrees. And I was going door to door selling satellite dishes, trying to get out of this hole I was in. And I couldn't breathe. I remember seeing a little bit of shade on someone's lawn. I did not care. No one was opening their door. I didn't care that I was standing on their lawn in the shade. That's how bad it was. And I still could not breathe. It was like the shade gave me no comfort whatsoever. And I wanted to go home. I wanted to go home. It was too hot. I wanted to go home, but I couldn't. See this little guy? Just today I was thinking about this time. And this was my boy who's now just turned 9. And this is the house that we were in. Let me see if this video works. I mean, look at that kid. He had to eat, right? Okay. So that's just looking through some old videos today. I just found that today and brought back a lot of memories. But I thought of him. I thought of my wife, the little tiny room that we were staying in at this time, and I had to keep going. It was the single hardest, most trying, most difficult year in my entire life. But looking back, it is the reason why I've accomplished what I've accomplished today. Okay? So keep that in mind. I want you guys to hear my journey, because I don't want to stand up here and be like, oh, I've done this and that, and make it sound easy, because it's not. Everything, the theme that you guys are talking about tonight is spot on. I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and start to work on the admin of the business. I would go out and sell all day, and my wife would help me with the admin. And within 6 months, we paid off all $120,000 of debt and moved the heck out of that house. But we were grateful for that opportunity. In May of 2007, that's me at my first real estate investing seminar. Picking my nose there. Had no idea what was going on. You could tell my wife is equally as confused. How many of you have heard this story about my first seminar? So this guy offers me this $15,000 coaching program. And to me, I'm like, heck yes. You're gonna, for $15,000, you're gonna teach me how to make millions of dollars. First of all, I was blown away that he was willing to let me go to a seminar for $2,000 in Atlanta, Georgia. I thought that was fantastic. And then only $15,000 to teach me, I thought it was great. Seriously. Did not hesitate. Not to mention, he was gonna give a free car to the student who showed the most promise during that year, the most improvement. It didn't take long to realize this guy was nothing more than an information marketer, hadn't done the business in about 6 years, but actually won the car. But everyone else gets excited. I hate to play with your emotions, but just like every other broken promise, he didn't send it. Never sent the car. I still have the trophy at home. I'd look at it and beat it up sometimes. And I have a picture of him standing by this Chrysler 300. And every time I see that car, I still get a little emotional. Should be a picture of him underneath. You know what's funny? When I was watching these videos today, I was watching one of my son. He was playing with the pots and pans. And in the background, I was listening to this guy. I mean, I got his seminar like in May of, not in May of 2007, but in like January, February is when I got his course. And I would listen to that crap. Looking back, it's not that great. But I would listen to that stuff over and over and over. And I still got enough out of it. You know, it did the job. So it took me 7 months to close my first transaction. 7 months of working my tail off. This was taking massive action, not sitting there and messing around. I was doing short sales, so that accounts for about 4 of those months. But 7 months, okay? Once again, does this sound easy? No, I'm not here to tell you this is easy. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme, but we are here to teach you how you can create a very successful business if you're willing to be consistent and put in that time. It took me 7 months to close my first deal. And then it took me a couple months to do the next one after that. That's better than 7, right? Then I started closing deals almost on a monthly basis. And between 2007 and 2010, I did about 40 transactions. It was pretty cool. Except for 2010, things started to change for me. I got out of short sales sooner than these guys did. which they had a lot of good years. Anyway, just for me, I got out of it sooner. And in 2010, I heard about this thing called financial freedom and get out of the rat race. Basically, I went into rentals. I was like, okay, I'm going to, 2010 was a rough adjusting year for me. And if you would look at my income statement that year, let's just say we hadn't bought our own personal home, and after that year, there was no chance. I think it was probably about $30,000. And as you know, as investors, I probably made a little bit more, but I had a lot of write-offs. But still, it was very difficult to pay the bills. So my goal is to get this financial freedom thing going, and between October of 2010 and February of 2011, I purchased 12 properties. That was the most properties I had purchased in that short a period of time, but it was with the intent of them all being rental properties. Not to flip. I did make sure there was some equity because I wanted to look at both those numbers, but it was with the intent of renting those out. But something happened when I went to buy property number 13. In my mind, it's like, just keep buying them, keep buying them. What do you think might happen after buying that many properties over that short a period of time? I ran out of money. There was, but I thought I was invincible. I thought I can find it. But it was just, bills had to be paid. That kid eats a lot of food, right? And I had a family to support, and I had to do something now. So what I did was I sold 4 of those 12 properties, and it killed me. I was like, oh, I don't want to sell them. But something really interesting happened when I sold those houses. I made enough money to take care of my family for an entire year. So I was like, wow, that felt good. It felt good to not worry about the next month. Now, I'm not here to tell you flipping is better than rentals. You know, it's everyone's has a different approach. I'm just telling you how I got into, or continued to get back into flipping, I should say. But then kind of a light went on. I said, okay, I bought a very large volume of properties over these last few months. Why can't I keep doing that, but keep recycling that money so I can keep using it? Why can't I, in 1 month, I made enough to take care of all my expenses for a year. I said, why can't I make enough to take care of my expenses for a year every month? I also looked at my returns and was realizing, okay, on the rentals, I was making about 7% on the total capital invested. On these, I was making like 50 to 60% on the total capital invested. I didn't care if I was paying a little more in taxes. It was a no-brainer for me and my situation. So I went to this guy named Reggie Lau. You guys, anyone heard of Reggie Lau? He's disappeared somewhere. I don't know what's happened to him, but and I was like, hey Reggie, why don't you be my partner? I sold some of the 4 houses that I just sold. I was like, I can keep doing this. Again, all I need is the money. He's like, nah, I don't want to do it. I was like, But I asked, right? I asked him.
How you would say that too.
Yeah, no, he's just like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'll lend you the money at 5 points and 18%. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't say that, but he didn't want to do JV partners. But I asked, and at that time, that was hard for me to do because I was still kind of just getting my feet wet, and I had a big, I had a rough year the last year, so it was tough on my self-esteem. But then I saw him again. It was actually at SDIC, and then I went back to a seminar the next Saturday, and he came up to me. He's like, hey Justin, let's go check out those houses, And my first thought was, oh, he wants to steal my area. But I had no choice. I took him up. We went up all day, and he looked at everything, and then afterwards we went to a Starbucks, and he's like, okay, how much do you need? And in 2011, but I had the thought first. First I had the thought, why can't I turn this into a machine? I had read books like The 4-Hour Workweek. I had read books like The E-Myth, and I knew, because everyone was telling me, you can't create a passive business out of flipping. But I knew that you could create a business, not a job. I knew that you could create systems for this. So I said, I'm going to do it. And so I had this thought first, right? Focus on the things that you want to do.
And that's what I started doing. So that's why I was able to get that money, because I already knew what I wanted to do. And then I went to work creating this machine, this business, this systematic operation. I looked at every single thing in my business and tried to think of how could I outsource this to someone else, not necessarily in the same way that Ted talked about, but how can I get someone else to do this? Every day my goal is to work myself out of a job. And in 2011, we purchased 60 houses, which was more than we had done the previous 4 years combined. It changed my life. That year, it was crazy. It was crazy. And I only tell you this not to brag or anything, but just to tell you, keep that vision, keep that dream alive. I went from literally being broke, like in debt a few years before, like a ton of debt, to being broke as in barely being able to pay the bills in 2010 to 2011. You should have seen, you know, we went to apply for a home loan. We still couldn't get a home loan after this because we had to have 2 years. Can you believe that? You should have seen, because 2011 was good, but 2012, we bought 120 houses. So after I had tax returns from 2011 and 2012, I mean, you should have seen the look on our loan officer's face, because they saw the year before too. He was like, what in the world did you do? So it changed our life. And just last year, we were able to move to San Clemente. And, you know, we have a nice, I like to say, a modest home that's a mile from the beach with a beautiful ocean view. Is that possible? So anyway, and it's just changed our life, you know. So I just want to let you know kind of the story so you understand that background. Okay, so I want this to be interactive. All right, so if you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to ask during this. So tip number one is believe. And I know that might sound cliche, and I used to not really get into the whole mindset thing. I'm just like, just get out and do it. But since I've been coaching and educating, I know that this is the single #1 problem. I've kind of always believed. I know it sounds weird. Even when I had $120,000 of debt, I felt wealthy because I knew up here, I knew what could be accomplished. But you have to believe you can do it. I've got a little video I made here for you guys. This is, can you hear it okay? Can you hear it or? Okay. Uh-oh, I gotta go back. Where's it coming out of?
Oh, I know what I want to do. It is so great to see you again.
Oh,
Annalisa, long time no see. How's it going?
Yeah, it's fine.
Can you believe this market? Oh my goodness. Can't believe it is so difficult to buy houses.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty crazy stuff, huh? Like, dude, I can't buy anything. I mean, like, dude, I spent like a whole 20 minutes a week trying to prospect for deals and nothing. Yeah. Nothing. So hard. Yes, and the margins, can you believe what people are willing to pay for margins? It's so ridiculous. They're all gonna lose a whole bunch of money. Yeah, those guys are it's just crazy. I mean, it's just such a weird market. I just can't believe it. Yeah. Oh, and those agents don't know anything. Yeah, totally. And can't find any money for these houses anyway. So, yeah, it's all true. Yes, and there's far too many investors right now. It's just so difficult. Oh, actually, I was thinking there's not enough investors because I can't find people to buy the houses for me to wholesale to them. So I was thinking only if there were more investors, then I'll be able to be successful in this business. You know, yeah, yeah. And the inventory is so tight. Oh, just horrible, just horrible. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Yeah, crazy. Well, actually, I was thinking, inventory is kind of high, so that's why I'm having a hard time buying houses. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. All right, we'll catch you next time. Until then, bye-bye. Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen this? You have not on this video. Have you ever seen stuff like this?
Oh yeah.
All the time. If you haven't seen it, it might be you. I'm kind of joking, but seriously, I showed this at NSDREI, and what was interesting is 90% of the people get to go, but then I talked to my acquisitions assistant, Kale, who was there, and he's like, you showed that video, and then people came up to me, and I would tell them what they needed to do, and they were like, oh, but this, and he's like, it was the weirdest thing. It's like I was watching your video all over. So you gotta believe that you can do it. There's always a way. I went to the second seminar I ever went to, which was 6 months after the first one. I had a little bit of success, at least I had a lot of short sales under contract that I was working on closing. So I was on this panel. And after that, I had all these people come up to me. And I never had experienced this before. It was the strangest thing. I had one guy come up and he's like, there's just not enough short sales in my area. There's not enough foreclosures, so there's not enough short sales. Then some other guy came up and he said, there's too many foreclosures and it's caused the market to be bad, so it's too risky and I just can't do this business here. And then some other guy comes up and he said, like in this video, there's too many investors, and someone else came up and said there's not enough investors. And then I kid you not, somebody came up to me that was from California and they said, only if I lived in New York. I hear New York is the place to invest. And then I swear, I thought I was in the Twilight Zone because somebody from New York came up to me after that. It was the craziest thing. I wish I had it on video camera. And he said, only if I lived in California. I am not kidding you. There are two people. There are those who find a way to make it work, and there are those who find a way to not make it work. So I've been doing this business for 7 years. Do you think there has been one time when I have gone to where people are just like, this business is so easy, it's awesome? Ever? No, never. I interviewed a guy recently on my podcast, and he's been doing this for 30 years. He's like, it's been the exact same thing for 30 years. You know what we call these guys? We call them the yeah butters, because no matter what I would tell them, I would try to encourage them, and after everything else, no matter what I said, they'd always say, yeah, but. And after that, I was like, blah, 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 blah. It's like, it didn't even matter what they said, because they were just finding a way to, and I realized they're not going to make it unless they change that mindset. So make sure that you find a way. Now, just like Ebron was saying, sure, know where the market's going and adjust accordingly. I have adjusted several times with short sales. Then I got into REOs and trustee sales. Then I started buying from wholesalers. And now recently we've been doing a ton of direct marketing. Keep adapting. We have purchased more houses in the last 30 days, put more houses under contract in the last 30 days than any other 30-day time period before that. I think it's around 18 to 20 in the last 30 days. At that rate, we'll buy about 200 houses over the next 12 months. Have we adapted because of the market? Yeah. We're buying bigger margins because we know where the market is. We're not buying higher end properties. We are adapting, but we are finding a way to make it work instead of a way to not make it work. Does that make sense? Yep. This is just so important. It doesn't matter what else I teach you today. If you don't understand this, it's just all stuff. Okay, so make sure you grasp this principle. I went. No. Okay. No more of the yeah butters. It goes without saying, but I had to include it. You have to learn the fundamentals. Now, having that been said, don't overlearn before you take action, which take action is going to be the next one. But you've got to learn the fundamentals. Last year when I spoke, who was here last year when I spoke? Shoot, I should have just given the same presentation. I was like, oh, I got to do a new presentation, right? Last year when I spoke, this is what I talked about for the entire time. I could talk about each one of these for 2 days, literally. Deal analysis. You have to understand deal analysis. If you do not understand deal analysis, meaning what should you offer on a property in order to ensure the likelihood of a profit, because nothing's guaranteed, right? If you do not know how to do that, understand how to evaluate after repair value, what the house is going to be worth when you fix it up. If you don't understand how to estimate repair costs, if you don't understand holding and closing costs, they don't teach you that on the flip shows, do they? Dang it.
They don't even disclose it. They don't even disclose the profit.
Isn't it crazy? It's crazy. I actually had several people have contacted me recently to be on those shows. And it's crazy, guys. Like one guy's like, yeah, so I'm your agent. We've been working together for a long time. I don't even know this guy, right? And I'm like, okay, my houses are in this. Oh, it doesn't matter. We just go in whatever house. I'm like, really? He's like, oh yeah, stuff is like totally made up. I'm like, wow. I didn't know it was that bad. I just thought it was kind of staged. I know it was that bad. So really interesting. I mean, don't always believe what you watch on TV, right? But deal analysis, they don't have it on there because it's probably the most dry, boring topic you could ever have. Even if you go to seminars, they're probably not going to talk about it very much, if at all. But you got to learn it. You've got to learn how to evaluate properties. I mean, it's really not that hard considering people take like 4, 6, 10 years in school. I mean, you can literally learn it in hours and then keep practicing it, but you've got to learn it. You've got to sit down with someone who understands it and learn it. I don't care, pay them, whatever. Don't pay $40,000 because they won't even teach you it in those programs. You pay 40 grand and you still won't learn it. Okay? Shameless plug, but I am including 8 hours of deal analysis videos for my seminar. We're not going to go over it at the seminar because it's pretty boring, right? I'm not going to be up there showing you videos, and something that you need to watch again and again to really get it in, okay? So make that really important, deal analysis. There's 5 steps, and in my opinion, you need to understand returns on investments. Not just using some lame 70% rule or adjusting that rule up, because there are so many situations when that can get you in trouble. What if you have an occupant in the property? What if you get the city involved? And you used to use the 70% rule. Who knows what I'm talking about when I say the 70% rule? Okay. Wow, okay. I should have taken the temperature at first, see who we got in here. I didn't mean that insulting at all, by the way. I'm just trying to get a feel for a few of the blank stares I'm seeing. So the 70% rule is a formula that some investors use to come up with their offer. They take what the property will be worth, the future value of the property after they fix it up, they multiply that by 70%, and they subtract the cost of repairs. Now, if you're brand new to this business, I'm all about taking action, right? And if that's an easy formula for you to get on the horn and call an agent and just make an offer so you can get your feet wet, do it. Do it. You're not going to lose money with it unless it's like, unless you're way off on your numbers, or unless it's a property that you hold for like a year or something like that, right? But it's going to be very hard for you to buy a property. Very hard. And then what I've seen a lot of people do is now they're using like 80% times ARV minus repairs, which can be okay if you really know what you're doing. But if you don't, you can get in a lot of trouble. Because if that property is occupied, or if you have the city involved, all of a sudden, you're taking this number And your holding costs are going to eat you alive. If something comes up, it's going to eat you alive. So you really need to understand return on investment. And once again, that's a whole day-long seminar, so I'm not going to go into that right now. But it's something that's important that you understand. Buying, you've got to understand buying strategies, different ways to buy properties, whether it's working with agents, buying at trustee sales, which I don't recommend right now, or marketing direct to the sellers through letters or internet or bandit signs or any way you can get in front of them. Financing, you've got to understand financing. There's my main finance guy right there in the back. Raise your hand, Brad. These guys fund a lot of deals for me. They are fast. I don't know, do you want that? I don't know if you're looking for more people or not, but. Bring it on. Yeah. Okay. I know a couple of years ago, you guys were more focused just on established flippers, but I think you've kind of expanded, so very good to work with. You've got to understand rehabbing, but look, guys, the most important things, don't get too overwhelmed here. The most important things you need to understand are deal analyzation and buying strategies. If you can do those two things, you can be successful in this business. Who believes that? Absolutely. The rest will follow. If you get a house under contract, you can give a call to one of these guys, give me a call, whatever, and we will take that thing down, okay? And we'll give you a fee or a percentage or whatever. I see so many people worrying about what they're giving up, right? It's the mentality so many people have. You've got to get rid of that mentality in this business. My good friend and mentor, Ward Hannigan, always says, half of something is a whole heck of a lot more than 100% of nothing, right? And if you can get paid to learn, you have figured out the secret to life. People go to school, the average time people go to school, I think is, I don't know the time, but I know they spend $200,000 on average. So they go to school for years, and all that time value to get in $200,000, but no one ever comes out feeling like a loser, right? Like, I just spent all this money, and no, like they feel accomplished. So you've got to realize that you are learning all the time, and if you can make some money along the way, then that's pretty dang cool. And then selling, it's pretty easy. Once you have these other steps taken care of, it's pretty easy. But I would recommend starting out wholesaling. This class was not meant to be what I'm kind of turning into a little bit, but I know there's some of you guys who are new here. Who doesn't know what wholesaling is? Okay, so most people know what wholesaling is, but wholesaling is basically you get a house under contract and you sell the rights to that contract. Okay, and that is a great way to start out. For a fee, you get a fee for that. Because you don't have to worry about the financing, you don't have to worry about the rehab, you sell it to one of these guys here, and they will pay you a fee for that property. Okay?
That's how we started.
That's how I started for 3 years. So if you guys have more questions at the end, feel free to ask. I want to kind of bust through all this and then just take questions. I love questions. So you've got to know those fundamentals. Fail fast. You know, there's a 6-minute video I have, but I'm realizing that it's more important to probably answer questions and talk about some of these fundamentals. But I will show this. What's the difference between the master and the beginner? The master has failed more times than the beginner has ever even tried. Embrace failure. Perfection is your worst enemy. What happens, I see so many people who are afraid to fail that they never take action. Like I mentioned to the school, no one ever feels like they failed when they went to school, but they didn't make any money from that act, but it's allowed them to be able to make money in the future. But what happens is, you know, people will call 20 agents or 20 people, or they'll get rejected. They'll make some offers, they get rejected, and they feel we have this thing inside of us that we've probably from a young age, when the 6-year-old kid called you a name or something, the kid didn't know what he was talking about anyway, right? And we're afraid. We're afraid of failure. We're afraid of someone telling us no. It beats us up. You've got to get over that. You've got to embrace it. Anyone successful in anything has failed. Now the goal is not to make the kind of failure that's going to lose you like $100,000, right? That's why you come to these things and get educated. But 90% of the things you do in real estate, okay, 60% don't have any risk with them. Talking to people, networking, calling people, making offers. Just make sure you have an inspection clause or something like that, or your plan is to wholesale it. Then you're good to go. Okay, but do not be afraid to take action and talk to people and make offers and get out there and make those kinds of things happen. And avoid analysis paralysis. Okay, fail fast. That's why I say fail fast, because you're going to fail. Do it quickly. That's why I call my program Fail Fast. Because I want to push that. I'm sick of people thinking that they're going to get into this business and within like a month become a millionaire. It's just not realistic. But I have seen people take massive action and after a few months start to see success. But it was after a lot of failure first. How long did it take you guys to get going? I know I interviewed you about a year ago.
Almost the same as you. So when we really kicked it into high gear and went into fail fast mode, it was the commitment,
yeah,
discipline. We made a commitment to put 20 houses under contract in 1 month, and we did it. And we closed our first deal in 6 months, made 56 grand on that. And then it was like, I think the same thing, it was 2 or 3 months later, then the next one turned into 1 a month, and then it turned into 2 a month, right? So, yeah.
That's pretty typical. I've interviewed probably about 40 people on my podcast, just knowing a lot of other people. And typically the people who succeed, it takes them anywhere from 6 months to a year of really taking some action to get things going. Now, my brother Steven, who's on that flyer, is going to be at the seminar, he was able to make it happen in 3 months, but he had me to help him, right? My acquisitions guy, it took him 2 months, but he was like, not only did he have us to help him, but he was like integrated into the team. It was like, do this. But I made him fail hardcore for a month straight. I mean, think about it, 2 months. I spent $10,000 on marketing on this guy and about $20,000, including his salary and marketing, and nothing happened. How do you think I felt? Right? This guy went to my church. I would like see him and like go the other way, like for those 2 months, because I was like, oh, it's uncomfortable. Just go buy a house. And now it's been 6 months, and he has put, I think, 18 or 19 houses under contract. Is that not amazing? Nothing for 2 months, but that was like with an intense team behind him. And now he's on fire. And what do you think I did just a couple weeks ago? Was it a week or a week ago? I give him hugs all the time and bonuses and everything. I hired another one. I'm like, I like this. I like this, so we'll see what happens, I mean, if each of these, he's averaging 1 to 2 deals per week right now. And if I can have like 3 guys doing a deal, I mean, I'm just kind of openly telling you guys, like, think big, right? You got to, that's why I showed you at first the other steps. You got to believe it. You got to learn the fundamentals. I had to learn the fundamentals. You got to fail fast, take action, learn the fundamentals, and then kind of like, okay, I'm going to try this out. Let's get it going. And then you go back and you learn some more. Who has learned something, then taken action, and went back and learned again and realized new things that they didn't realize the first time?
All the time.
Always. Those of you who have blank stares on your face right now, come back. Keep coming. Keep getting educated. Take action and come back. Because I promise you, the feeling that you're feeling right now of overwhelm, the same feeling I felt when I went to that first seminar 7 years ago, if you keep at it, that will go away. And you'll make friends, and it's kind of fun, right? After a while. So keep at it. Who's heard of 3 feet from gold? Something they talk about in Think and Grow Rich. So many people stop when they are literally 3 feet from gold. How easy would it have been for me to quit in year 2010 when things weren't looking good? How easy would that have been? But I had done like 90% of the work. Because the learning is most of the work. Getting it figured out. I always tell people, it is harder to flip your first house than it is your next 10. And it is harder to flip your first 10 than it is your next 100. So I've been doing 100 a year. What do you think I'm thinking right now? How can I do 1,000? But fortunately now I'm in a situation where my back is not against the wall. And my requirement is that I'm able to keep spending time with my family and continue to enjoy my lifestyle. So it's not, 1,000 is like, okay, how can I make this happen? It's not a must. But I have been, tomorrow I have a call with a guy. If Brad could help me figure out how to, 1,000's a lot, because you got more acquisition guys, more marketing. You got that gap funding. These guys just won't cover. What's that?
We'll get you to 1,000
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's talk. So anyway, I got a call with this guy who is like a professional money raiser. I don't know where it's going to happen, right? But I'm just going to talk to everybody until it works. I do not know. I'm not that smart, guys, I swear. I got an 18 on my SAT. It was just enough to get into school because I had a football scholarship, right? So, went to BYU. My brother, he is 2 years younger than me, and I was a senior, and we were in the same geometry class. That's the highest math I took. And I got a C, and he got an A, and he was a sophomore, right? And I dropped out of college. I'm not saying this to brag, or I'm all about education, but you don't have to be a genius. I do not know how to fix anything. Okay, at our house, my wife is the handy woman. She has the tools, I don't. I'm not even kidding. Like, she helps me with these things because I can't figure out the technology. It's very difficult for me. But I'll ask people to do things for me. I'm not afraid to talk to people. I like to find people who are better at doing things than I am, and it's really served me well. Because I don't know how to fix toilets, I can't do it. I got to get someone else to do it. So you got to think like an entrepreneur. Think like a business owner. Don't think like someone who's looking to replace your current job with one that's much harder. Okay, and has a lot more involved. Oh, I love this one. You get paid for your problems. Think of yourself. Mike Cantu always says, when he wakes up in the morning, he puts on his problem-solving hat, because that's his job, as a problem solver. So I love, what he's told me recently is, Justin, you hire problem solvers. I got to do that, right? And I tell my assistant whenever she's frustrated about something, which doesn't really happen anymore, she's just used to it. I said, Vanessa, this is what you get paid for. If we didn't have problems, I wouldn't need you, right? So realize that, like, you are a problem solver. Welcome the problems. Whenever there's a problem, don't think, oh, another problem. Be like, yes. I remember the first time I had somebody come, see, I can't even think of what it's called. What are those, not the sewer system, but the big, yeah, see how, look at this. There's a septic tank, and the guy's getting down there, and it stunk really bad. And I'm like, how can you do that? And he's like, oh, I smell money. He loved it. It was money to him. So when you see problems, embrace them and be excited. Ooh, another problem we get to solve. There's always a solution. And it comes kind of fun after a while when you can just solve all these problems. So expect them. They happen every day. Tip 4, every single successful person I see is focused. These investment club meetings are amazing. But one of the small things that sometimes happens is you come every month and you see different speakers. And it's like, oh, I want to do it that he's doing. Oh, I want to do it he's, oh, note buying. Oh, trustee sales. Oh, apartment complexes. Mobile home parks. We have this, as entrepreneurs, we have this shiny penny syndrome. And we just, come to these meetings, keep networking, take nuggets from each person. If there's someone that you really love, like Justin Williams at houseflippinghq.com, then follow them continuously. And then keep coming and networking and learning and take nuggets away from whenever you learn, whenever you hear from somebody different. But don't ever feel, I do not ever feel like somebody needs to agree with me or anyone should agree with me 100%. I've never seen a speaker that I agreed with 100%. Usually it's the newer people that agree with everything, that's all they know, right? But over time, you'll start to develop your own ideas and your own ways of doing things, but you can adopt systems and what people do and make those your own. But focus, 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 focus. A jack of all trades is a master of none. Less is more. I'm currently listening to the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller, and I've just started it, but yeah, it's amazing, If you guys we're always trying to do more. If you guys will just focus on accomplishing one thing in your business a week or a day, you will be incredibly more successful than if you try to do a lot of things. It sounds counterintuitive, right? But it is so true. So every week, figure out the most important thing that you should do. With my calendar, I have a calendar, and every day it gets pretty loaded because things come up and I put it in there. I even have an idea and I'll put it in my calendar. But then every day before the next day I go through it, I move it all over. It's all kind of like, it's like a brain dump, right? And I'll move it over, I'll put it somewhere else, and I look at 1 to 2 things that I want to accomplish the next day. I might have a couple little things in there that I put beneath that are like, sign the guarantee for Brad or something like that, right? But have I not even streamlined most of my paperwork? Absolutely. Yeah. My mom signs, most of my documents for these guys. They send me a DocuSign thing. I go, okay, done. And I don't even like doing that. So you can streamline everything. Everything. Tip 5, leverage, leverage, leverage. This is another thing that so many people struggle with. Who in here thinks that they can do things better than other people? Or that's kind of a vague question, right? We have a hard time letting go. We got these sayings ingrained in our mind that if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. Get rid of that thinking. And at first, you know what? Maybe if you could do something to 100% and you hire someone that can do it to 80%, okay, but that's 80% of something that wasn't getting done before, and you can still do 100% of whatever, right? But what's crazy is over time, they start to do it better than you. Because you're trying to do all these things, and it's not going to happen. You cannot build a successful business if you do not leverage other people's time, and in this business, in my opinion, other people's capital, unless you're wholesaling. You've got to leverage other people. So I have a friend named Tom. Now, Tom is haunting me right now. Okay. Tom sells widgets. And he doesn't actually sell them, he works for somebody else, right? But Tom gets paid $20 for each widget he makes. And he's able to make about a widget per hour, and he works a 10-hour day. So he's able to make 10 widgets per day and makes about $200. He's happy. He's got a couple kids. Him and his wife are about to celebrate their 10-year anniversary. And she really wants to go on a vacation, but they can't really afford it. So he'll take her to the movies or something. Not splurging for them. He'd like to take his kids to Disneyland, but just not in the budget. But he's happy. Has a good life. Not really in the neighborhood he'd like to be in. Not as safe as he'd like it to be, but they get by. He's a good guy. Good family man. But he sure would like to be able to do some more things for his family. There's a couple trips he'd really like to go on, but it's all good. He's living his life. One day, Tom finds out about this machine that creates widgets. And he finds out this one machine can create 100 widgets a day. And he realizes, wow, that would make me $2,000 a day. But there's a catch. This machine is going to cost him $50,000 and 500 of his hours to build it. So he says, well, nothing I can do about it. I don't have an extra $50,000. I'm just paying the bills. I don't have any extra time. I might have a couple hours a night, but I want to spend it with my family, and I sure like football. So on the weekends I like to watch those games, and a good Sunday nap, sure is great, or Saturday nap. So it doesn't cross his mind to figure out how he can borrow the money. Or, hey, maybe I can get someone else to, there's so many things that could cross his mind, but in his mind, he's like, nope, just can't do it. The difference between Tom doing this machine and not doing it is going from $65,000 to $650,000 per year. If you guys knew this and you were Tom, would you figure out a way to get that machine built? Absolutely, but most people don't. This is pretty literal. This is very similar to what happens in business. Guys, it seems like until you do it, it feels like this thing that's like out there, and that's why I tell you my story. Like there's nothing special about me. I just realized, hey, I can get people to work cheaper for me than the amount of money they can make me. And I put that into a system. You gotta build your machine. You've got to build a business. Okay, don't just make a job for yourself. So here's just a couple little tips that I threw, and I actually threw these in today from another presentation I did. So a couple of them might be kind of, it's not, anyway, it's just good tips, but it's not incredibly organized, but it's good stuff. So this is something I do on all my deals. How many of you, okay, how many of you are active real estate investors? It takes a long time to find a deal, right? It takes a long time to do the legwork that's involved in acquiring a deal, correct? I outsource all of that. I do not look at a deal until it is under contract. Okay, and it's not only under contract, but it's been under contract, it's been inspected, everything's good to go. Even if you don't do that, that's okay. I didn't start that way. But what I started doing was, if I was working with an agent, I would make them send me the after repaired value. Send me an estimate of repairs. And I would, if they didn't know how to do that, I would kind of show them how to do that. Send me what the closing costs are. How many of you guys have had agents say, this is what you got to buy it for, and you're lowballing me, and blah, 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 blah. All the time, right? If you teach them what you are looking for and make them send that information to you, they can't come to you and say, you're lowballing, you're wasting my time, you know? Help them understand what you're looking for and why, and have them send the offer to you. Okay, I have an agent with which we've bought over 100 houses in the last 2 years. Some are MLS deals, some aren't. Not all are MLS deals. But this guy, when he sends me an email saying, it's basically saying, okay, I got one. Because he knows exactly, it took a little bit of time to teach him. It took a little bit of time to build that part of the machine. But boy, has it paid off. It has totally paid off. So analyzing deals takes a very long time. Let other people help you with that legwork. When a wholesaler sends me a property, it has to be under contract. Has to be. We just spend way too much time. You know, people will send us houses that are listed on the, it's like, I could do this myself. Like, we don't have time to look at this. Let them do that work. And my main wholesalers that I work with, I mainly only work with 3 or 4, and we buy several, I want to say several a month from each one, but it varies, right? We buy a lot of houses from these guys, but they know exactly what we're looking for. When Mike Cantu calls me and says he's got a house, I know it's going to be a good deal. Because Mike is smart, and Mike knows to look, Mike knows what I'm looking for. He finds out what I'm looking for. And it saves us all a lot of time. Okay, so I think I kind of talked about all this. So like I said, really there's no risk until you send that check. Some people get nervous, well, why are you letting people do the legwork for you? Because you don't have anything to lose until you actually send them some money, or until your inspection period is over. Now, I'm not suggesting that you just go out there and fire out all these offers and have random people. No, I mean, there's a process to it, right? You got to learn how to analyze these things. But at some point, you got to take that action. You got to make those offers. I don't know of anyone, I'm sure there's some smart aleck out there who's going to say, oh, I do. I don't know of anyone who has bought a house without ever making some kind of offer on it, right? That doesn't usually happen. I'm sure there's some way it can happen, but it doesn't usually happen. Or bidding on it or something. You've got to make offers on houses to buy houses. Yet you would be surprised at how very few people have actually even make offers. So many people will come to Investment Club for like a year, and I'll see them again, like, oh, how's it going? You've done it? No, how many offers are you making? Oh, I haven't made an offer yet. What? Get out there, make an offer. I've got this song. Who's heard my song about the Offer Club? I'm not singing it. I sing it at SDIC. Yeah, it's pretty good, huh? You know, but join the offer club. You know, get out there, make offers. Figure out what you need to do to make an offer and then make an offer. That should be your goal. Even though you don't know how to do it yet, your goal should be, okay, my goal is to make my first offer, and that's going to cause you to learn deal analysis and hook up with somebody just so you can get that offer out and feel accomplished just for making your offer, because you're not going to get it accepted. And if
you'll accidentally buy.
Even a blind squirrel gets in that every once in a while, right? So, but you're not going to get the first few accepted, and if you do, you should probably be concerned because you may have been off on something, but that's okay. Feel accomplished in just making that offer, because you have done more than 90% of what most people have never done, and you're actually about 75% of the way there. So fail fast, get that out of the way, because there's a bunch of other stuff you got to worry about later, but just get that out of the way. I see people who don't do that quickly, and they're trying to figure out financing and rehabbing and all this stuff, they get burnt out. And their spouse tells them, see, I told you. Or I said, see, I told you. I don't want to be biased here, you know. You're wasting all our time and money, and get back to go get your job again. You know, it's like, you got to go for it. I like to use general contractors. This is my, you know, there are some people out there who would disagree, and if they have it systematized, great. But for me, the only way I'm able to do such a high volume is to eliminate as many things. You know, we have this thing where we like to take simple things. Michael says we take simple things and make them complicated. My goal is to make things as easy as I possibly can. If I've got one guy who's willing to manage everybody, why do I want to manage a ton of people? Okay, so I like to use general contractors. I know that's just a simple statement, but there you go. Put those agents to work. My agent, not only does he find properties, but he does cash for keys. I would say about 20% of the properties we buy come occupied. Could a tenant be a problem? I cannot tell you how many investors I see that say, well, call me back when you get rid of the tenant and I'll think about buying the house. Dude, you just walked away from an incredibly good deal because that person is motivated to sell you the house because you're afraid of a problem. That's okay if you're new and you don't know how to deal with that situation. Once again, wholesale it. Get that thing under contract. But my agent finds properties, does cash for keys. I've never dealt with an occupant. He deals with them. He gets them out. He deals with it. If there's eviction, he deals with it. He manages my properties for me. How cool would that be? My thought is, okay, I have a general contractor. General contractor should fix up the property, right? So he should be responsible for doing that from top to bottom. So we hold him highly accountable for doing that, including the cleaning, which some contractors don't think they should do. So it's communication, right? You've got to communicate that to them, make sure it's very clear, written out, they understand it. That is their job. If you want to work for me, if you want all the work you can handle, this is what I expect. And I've gone through my fair share of contractors, so I understand it's not super easy, but eventually the cream does rise to the top. And even now with one of our amazing contractors, we're having some issues, okay? But it was a good ride and we're going to keep going with them. But he recognizes he's losing work and he's going to have to improve. But what I do is I have my agent, especially on some of my lower end properties, I'll have my agent, it's like the agent has to go take the pictures anyway. I say, hey, you want this house to look great, of course. Do a walkthrough for me and make sure it's just looking fantastic. What am I going to be able to go see on this house? I'm not the contractor type at all. What am I going to be able to go see that my agent can't? So why would I have the ego to think I have to go drive up 2 hours to the high desert or inland or wherever I'm going, or San Diego or whatever, and, oh, they painted, good job. Oh. You know, my agent can do that. He's going to go take pictures. He can have a little checklist. He has the phone number to the contractor. He calls them directly. They get a couple little things taken care of. He takes him a day or so to get it on the market anyway. Bam, bada bing, bada boom. All comes together, right? He's going to be on the hook if it doesn't get sold. Contractors are going to get fired. The agent's going to lose all my business, right? So I put him to work. I let him do these things. If we need someone to go by and check on it, they'll check on it. There's always some kind of repair list at the end, right? When you when you sell a property. Do you think we handle that? No. Agent handles that. He works with the contractor. They get it negotiated, get it taken care of, and get it done. I let him handle pictures and everything. I also let him handle negotiations on selling. He knows what I'm looking for. He knows his job is to get the most money he possibly can. And then he can bring it to us. He brings it to my assistant. All right? Does that sound good? Those some good little tips? Oh, I went too far again. Okay. Tip 6, systems. And we've talked about systems. I'm not going to go into that too much because we've already covered it. Actually, I have a few little tips here. Who uses a materials list? Right? On 80% of our houses, we're using the same paint, the same carpet, the same. Who's ever gone to Home Depot to try to pick out everything for your house?
You do it once.
What a nightmare. What a nightmare, right? So we have all the SKU numbers for everything we use. Our contractors know what we use. They do it all. Now, we used to have this thing where they would go and pick it up and call us, and we would pay for it over the phone. And that's a good way to get things going rather than you have to go buy all that. But we don't even do that anymore. I mean, that is a pain because it's like I'm getting calls at dinner. And so now we just have them buy it all. We pay them for it up front. And it gets taken care of. So, but as you're starting, you can do the Home Depot thing where they call you up, right? But have a list. I mean, don't get like all emotional in this business. I have a confession, and I might get kicked out of the room after I say this, but I don't really love real estate. I don't even go look at my houses. I don't care like how, oh, that's so pretty. No. All I ask my assistant when I talk to her every other day is, are we making money? I want to know, what did it cost me? What did we make?
They're widgets.
They're widgets. They're widgets. Be a business owner who happens to buy and sell real estate, which happens to be able to make you a lot of money. If you want to create a magnificent masterpiece on every single home and make it unique and special, you're going to have a hard time in this business. You need to go be a custom designer for homeowners, right, or someone else, right? You're in the wrong, not this specific thing that I'm talking about here. Okay, so have a standardized material list. Try to use it for each house. Granted, there are going to be different locations in different areas and different seasons. We are taking our list, and our list is always changing. It's like, oh, now we're going to use this granite on 90% of our houses. Okay. But every once in a while you're going to have this custom home or custom area. Don't take a mid-century modern home and put in your laminate wood flooring, or you're going to have a hard time. All right? So there are some things you need to change up. Something I have done that I haven't seen many other people do is I've created a rehab price list. Okay? So what's the difference between a materials list and a rehab price list is I started to realize a long time ago after we did about 50 houses that I'm like, you know, all these guys are charging about the same for paint. They're charging about the same for laminate wood flooring. So I said, but there's a lot of haggling and negotiating that still goes on, but yeah, we always come to the same price. So I said, why not come up with this list that lets them know what I'm paying them, lets us know what we're going to pay them, and eliminate the haggling, eliminate the getting multiple bids, eliminate the price creep that happens with contractors, save everybody, including them, a lot of time and a lot of money, save those days in between when you're negotiating and trying to figure it out. And so we came up with this list of what we pay for paint per square foot. So for example, it used to be $1 per square foot, prices have gone up a little bit. But just to make numbers easy, if I'm paying $1 per square foot for two-tone paint and it's a 1,500 square foot house, how much is my paint going to cost me? What's that? $1,500, $1 if I'm paying $1. It's $1,500. Now, that has gone up to closer to $1.25, $1.50-ish. So it's going to be a little more expensive. But same with the exterior. It's about $1 per square foot. Laminate wood flooring is like $2.45, including materials. So we can very easily, it's all just numbers. The contractors love it because they know they're getting the bid. They know they don't have to wonder what they're going to get paid. We love it because it eliminates all the negotiating, all the haggling. We don't haggle with our contractors anymore. Every once in a while there might be a little one-off thing and it's like $100 here, $100, no big deal, right? They want to keep our work. They keep prices low and we just keep rolling, okay? So it works really well. Okay, I already went over all this. Hire out the busy work. So I have this guy in my mastermind group, and we recently, we had a mastermind meeting about a month ago. And this guy was on fire for a couple months. And then he came to the meeting, and I said, what's going on? How are things going? He's like, I kind of stopped. I stopped marketing. I said, what? I really dug in to see what was going on. And the guy was like handwriting every single letter himself. And what was so interesting to me is later on, come to find out, because I actually talked to this guy, he seemed sharp to me. I talked to him about when I was trying to hire an acquisitions coordinator, I talked to him about hiring him. But when I realized what he was making, because I was like, what do you need to he was making like $100,000 a year. I'm like, you're kidding me. You're making $100,000 a year and you are doing $10 an hour work. You've got to value your time more. Something I find interesting about people who have a high dollar value amount, whatever, I don't know, does that call anything? We say net worth, but someone who's, like for example, my time per hour, if you wanted to hire me, and I don't offer this, by the way, I don't think it's the best way to go, come to a meeting like this, I would probably charge about $1,000 an hour. Just because that's what it would cost for me to be away from my business. And I chose that, right? I decided that's what my time is worth. And it was kind of based on what I make and this and that. But you've got to decide that your time is worth more than what you are currently making in whatever job you might have, because you know what you're able to achieve, right? So if you can hire someone for significantly less than that to take care of your busy work, do it. Do it. And you might say, oh, I can't afford it, but start small. I'm going to go through this and I'm going to talk about hiring an assistant really quick. So outsource the simple things first of all. Outsource all your direct mail and marketing efforts, utilities and all that kind of stuff that is really easy to do, that you can pay very little amount and it takes a lot of time. Easy to train, outsource all that stuff. I do not ever go to the bank, I don't send wires, I don't upload information on MLS, never look at Craigslist, signs, lock boxes, lock vault, all that stuff. Get rid of all of it. Avoid the paperwork pileup, which is what I call it. How many of you guys, I remember for me, when I first started, it's like, okay, I'm making an offer, I gotta sign this offer, then I gotta fax I gotta print it, sign it, fax it. I mean, it's just such a pain. I mean, I'm in there trying to get in the zone and all stuff. Oh, I got this paperwork I gotta sign.
Especially in California.
I know, it's ridiculous, right? So you've got to figure out ways to avoid what I call the paperwork pileup, because it's very hard to accomplish things if you don't do that. So let's talk about hiring an assistant. When I hired my assistant, who is now running my entire house flipping business, she's taken the system that I've created and she's helped me create, and she runs it. She only calls me when there's something really big, or something bigger that she needs to talk to me about. It didn't start that way though. When I hired her, I started paying her $10 or $11 an hour, and it was for about 10 hours a week. Because that's what started things going. She was just doing utilities and she was buying me time, and she was making some offers for me. But then before long, they'll be able to start, maybe they get an offer under contract or something like that, and they more than pay for themselves. So give them basic easy tasks at the beginning, as well as one task that they can do all the time with or without you telling them what to do. So for her, she was an agent and it was making offers on the MLS. I taught her to make offers on the MLS because if you hire somebody, it can become a job for you to give them their job, right? So you want them to have one thing that they can always do, and then you have them do all these other little things or anything else you need them to do, and then they can build into it. until they can literally run your entire business. So with her, I started paying her like $11 an hour, then after a month it went to 12, then after 3 months it went to 13. Like, she knew this ahead of time, so it kept her motivated, and I'll give her little bonuses as she'd get houses under contract. Now there's another guy in my mastermind group who, who's heard of the term nail it then scale it? Okay, well now you have. So my whole philosophy is nail it then scale it. It has to do with the whole focus thing, the one thing, find that one thing. So there's this guy in my mastermind group who he started cold calling. And he's like, hey, I cold called for 4 hours. This was like yesterday. I cold called for 4 hours today. I talked to 6 people. So that's a lot of calling to only get hold of 6 people, right? It sounds like, oh, are you kidding me? Like he talked to 6 people and he made 1 appointment. And I said, okay, how much would it cost you to hire somebody to cold call for you? Let's say you pay him $12 an hour. Let's make the numbers easy. Let's say 10 just to make the numbers easy. And they called for you every day for 4 hours. How much is that going to cost you per week? $200. What if they could get you 1 appointment per day? I mean, that's a lot of calling to get 1 appointment. You doing it personally, you're going to feel like the biggest failure, and it's like, oh, I'm wasting my time. But do you think out of those appointments, you can maybe close 1 deal? Is it worth, what's that?
5 appointments a week.
That's how you create a business. Is it worth $200 to buy a house?
Yeah.
All day long. That's what I do. Nail it, then scale it. I'm not going to talk about the projected numbers I have for these guys. I hope he doesn't watch it on YouTube. But my acquisitions guys, it's insane. Like, if I can nail it and scale what they are currently doing, ridiculous. Same thing with bandit signs. I mean, someone else in my group is out putting out like a couple hundred, 150 bandit signs a week, right? That's like a full-time job. Not a full-time job. I think it's a lot of time. But if you can get someone else to do that, and you run the numbers, and in their mind we're thinking, oh, but bandit signs, I'm going to spend $300 on signs and time and all this stuff. It's like, if you get someone to do that, and you put out 500 signs and it costs you $1,000, but you buy a house that makes you 20, and then you can do that 20 more times, right? Okay, so this is the way you need to think. This is the way I think, and it's done really well for me. Okay, we already talked about this, so. Replace yourself. You can automate everything. Okay, create a business, not a job. There's not anything that can't be automated, I promise. Everything can be automated. Tip 7. First, I was going to say mastermind and mentors, but I said the right people. Hang out with the right people. Who's heard of, you are the equivalent of the top 5 people that you associate with, right? We kind of become who we hang out with. And if they're a negative person, we kind of start to be like that a little bit. You got to keep track of that. You guys are all in the right place, by coming here tonight and hanging out with the right people. But sometimes you might get back in the world and you're going to have those negative people. My father-in-law, once again, I know you guys put this on YouTube and stuff, but whatever. Let it be known. My father-in-law just went on a hiatus from his lifetime career of teaching in Utah, getting paid very little, came out here to California to learn how to do this business. He's been dreaming his whole life of running his own business, being able to make the kind of income that something like this can make, and he went for it, kind of put it on the line. I'm super proud and excited for him. I know he's going to make it. But he's had so many people, friends and family, that are just can't believe it and tell him it's the stupidest thing he's ever done. And why in the world would he do that and go waste his time and his career and everything he's worked so hard for? Oh, it ticks me off. But people can get to us. You've got to avoid those people. Surround yourselves. Whether you join a mastermind group, and I'm not saying the $25,000 to $40,000 ones, but whether you join a group or whether you create your own, hang out with the right people with the right mindset that can keep you in that frame of mind. Someone that you can contact on a daily basis if you need to. Let them know, bounce questions off each other, get on the horn, you know, talk. Maybe you have an accountability partner. Have mentors. Okay, this will help. Got to hang out with the right people. Everyone I know who is successful hangs out with the right people. They surround themselves with the right people. You've got to be good with your time. 20-minute phone call, 20-minute recovery time. Who in here, let's be honest, who in here lets this control them? Okay? Is this not a device that should allow us to be more efficient, more successful? But yet, how often does this little thing make us work for it and let us know when we need to respond to somebody? I do not answer my phone when it rings, like hardly ever, unless it's one of these guys calling. No, I'm just kidding. Very rarely. Pretty much the only person I'll answer for is my assistant, because she knows that she better not call me unless it's important, and she's got a resolution to the problem she's calling me about. She cannot call me with a question, by the way. It's kind of a side note thing. She has to call me with a solution and just confirmation for the problem. It takes a lot of work to think about things, right? Decision making takes a lot of work. And 90% of the time, me or someone else who at least is educating this business is going to come with the exact same solution. So why do I want to take that time to figure that out? But yet so many people, they get a text and they feel obligated. You know, like this guy, no, anyway. They feel obligated to like stop what they're doing and text back. They work for their phone. Do not work for your phone. Don't hop on Facebook in the middle of the day just to shoot the breeze, right? I mean, if you talked about it in the book, everything we've talked about tonight. I wake up and I love what I mean, I love it. I don't love real estate, but I love, it's a game to me. Anybody ever played the game of life? Yeah. The board game? That game, I mean, you know what's cool about that game? There might be someone who wins, who finishes first, but really, everybody ends up with a nice car, and it's been a long time since I played, but and a mansion, and just play the game, right? Who cares who finishes first? I don't play board games anymore. I play the game of life, and it's fun. You know, I love it. A couple other time-saving tips. Avoid rabbit holes, meaning, who knows what a rabbit hole is? What I mean by that? Yeah.
Like a terrible time suck, just taking different directions.
Oh, happens all the time, right? You got to avoid those like the plague. That's why I don't answer my phone, that's why I don't respond to text right away until later. I mean, I'll listen to messages like after I'm done working for the day, but I'm not just going to like call, someone calls, hey, how's it going? You want to go, hey? It's like, no, you got something to do. You have a mission to accomplish. Get it done, right? One of the rabbit holes is a bad wholesaler. How many of you guys have been sent houses that are garbage, but you find yourself like an hour later, yeah, like analyzing these, like that's why I have set very strict rules with my wholesalers.
There's a list of people in the email to read it right away.
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely. If you send me a house, it has to be under contract. You have to be sending it to me and only me. You don't have to, I don't care. If you don't want to, that's fine. If that's not how you work. I know people who are successful and don't do it that way. That's okay. But it has to be me and only me. And we'll get back to you within an hour or so. And I will blacklist somebody if I feel like they are inflating value or underestimating repairs intentionally. Done. And if I get 2 or 3 from someone that I feel like they're trying to be honest, but they just don't get it, done. You got to avoid these things. They can take a lot of time. But there's a lot of other rabbit holes in our life. I like that term because you detect them. Beep, 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 rabbit hole, and get back on track. Get back focused. My goal is to always 10x my time, my productivity. That's really what the 4-hour work week is about. It's not about, I've only read like a third of the book, but I know what it's about, right? I started reading it and I'm like, okay, I get it. All right, next. I'm totally like that with books. I've read parts of a lot more books than I've finished the whole thing, but The whole idea is 10xing your time to where if you want, you can work 4 hours and make more than most people working 40 a week, or you can work 40 and it's like as if you're working 400. I mean, you just 10x your time, 10x your income. And that's always my mentality. How can I do this bigger and better and more efficiently? We talked about general contractors. I don't go to walkthroughs. If a general contractor is going to go walk a house for me, why do I want to show up with him? So instead of taking half hour of his time, we're taking an hour of both of our times, talking about things that mean nothing, and then we come to the exact same conclusion that he would have come to on his own in half an hour. Right? I mean, they can send you the bid, and if you want to go through it later, you can. But in my opinion, once again, unless it's a high-end project or something different, I don't go to the walkthroughs. I let them send it. They already know what we're doing. All right. Tip 9 is persistence. I mean, I would rather somebody, I don't want you guys to leave tonight like being overly excited about anything we talked about. I know that sounds bad. I do want you to be motivated, but I don't want you to be overly excited because what goes up must come down, right? I would rather you wake up and try to accomplish one thing per day. Consistent and persistent actions will get you way further than any one special thing. People are always asking me, what's the secret? I'm like, that's it right there. That's the secret, persistence, yes. One step in front of the other and doing it consistently. People ask me, because I played football, whatever. I've worked out, and sometimes people ask me, what do you do when you work out? I'm like, honestly, like, yeah, exactly. Like, it's nothing special. I just kind of, and it's nothing compared to what I did in college, right? So to me, I feel like I've digressed a lot, but I just go at least once a week or something, do something. That's all it takes, guys. Learn the fundamentals, be consistent. I see people that charge it really hard for like a few weeks, and I actually don't like that when I see that. Oh, I'm gonna do this, and they always crash and burn, always. So I'd rather you be consistent and persistent and just keep going. Keep going. Don't let things bring you down. Just keep going. Well, I think there's a bonus tip, because I think it was 9, right? You got to be able to adapt. You got to be quick on your feet. How many think this is true? Yep. You have absolutely got to be able to adapt. I already talked about that, how many times I've adapted to the different markets and everything. But you've got to be able to adapt. You've got to be quick on your feet, and you've got to be able to make decisions. Who cares if the paint is going to be like this color of tan or this color of, I mean, it's like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, done. Get it done, right? You've got to be able to make quick decisions in this business. Okay. So what time are we at?
We're a little over, but...
Are we? Okay. Oh, nice. There we go, 9:15. Okay. So we're almost done. This is the last thing. I talked about how there's always something missing in your business why you aren't achieving ridiculously amazing amounts of success. Okay? And at the last mastermind meeting I had, there was 2 case studies that we came up with. Anyway, I quoted myself there. It's just a little tiny things that make the difference between huge success and no success at all, right? So here's a case study. 2 different partnerships, or one individual and one partnership at the last mastermind meeting I was at, weren't getting the kind of success they wanted. So it took a while. It took a day or 2 for me to really dig into their business and figure out what their problem was. This first partnership, they had been in the business. Okay, so they've been in business as long as I have. So it's like 7 years or something. And in the past year, they've made no or lost money. I think they've done like 1 deal, but after they cover this and that and expenses or whatnot, they pretty much broke even and made or didn't make any money. So in that same time, we've done 100 houses and made 7 figures. Why is that? Why is that? So I broke it down and I figured out in their situation, what they were doing is number 1, they were making offers on the MLS, which is fine. But if you're going to make offers on the MLS, you need to know what homes are going for on the MLS. They wanted these margins, but they would not leave, making offers on the MLS, which you got to settle for these margins. And what was interesting is I taught them how I evaluate my properties, which is based on the total capital invested. And when I calculate that return I'm looking for, which is about 15% of the total capital invested, not including the cost of capital, you guys are like spinning around right now, but, or it's an annualized return of 40 to 45% on the total capital invested. What they were doing is they were going for that, but they were including the cost of capital, and they were basing it off of the after repaired value, not the cost, not the cost, not the way I did, which is okay, but they should have adjusted accordingly. And this lady was so stubborn, and we were at the beach, and I was like, okay, well, I realize what you're doing. You are not going to buy houses on the MLS at those margins. You will not. And she was like, I'm like, you have to change something. She's like, well, I refuse to not include, these margins that I'm looking for. I'm like, okay, then you keep doing what you're doing. You will have no success. And it was crazy. Like, and I said something like, okay, well, that's why I made over $1 million in the last year and you made nothing. And it was sad to say that, but the people around, it really hit them. I don't know if she will adjust or not. Her partner told me he's gonna, probably if she doesn't change, he's gonna go, work through his own thing. But that was something that we noticed that she was doing wrong. So you gotta recognize what you're doing wrong. You gotta change it. Don't be stubborn, right? I know a guy who, I'm looking at 14, 15% margins on average, assuming I can turn it in 3 to 4 months. But I know a guy who's buying at trustee sale 8% margins. How many of you think that's crazy? I do. So we're sitting around, these guys are idiots. What are they doing? This guy has like $5 million worth of joint venture partners. And he's making about 8%, but if you turn that 3 to 4 times per year, how much is that? What's that? 24. What's that? Well, okay, so it's 8. What's 8 times 3 is 24, and 8 times 4 is 32. So it's 24 to 32%. If he's getting half of that, how much is he getting? Are his private money lenders happy? They are, because they before were getting anywhere from 1, 2, 3%. They're happy. How much is he making on $5 million worth of invested capital a year? Yeah, he's making over $1 million, close to $1 million on 8% returns. And it's not his money. He has no risk in it. Who thinks 8% margins are dumb now, right? So my point is, I'm not. That's not my game, right? But find a way to make it work. Don't always assume that, oh, those guys don't know what they're doing. I'm going to stick my head in the sand and make no money this year. I'm so frustrated with this individual, and I hope she does listen to this. That's okay. But you've got to find a way to make it work. Second case study is an individual who spent $20,000 in the past year on marketing, and during this time, this was when we had spent about $20,000 as well, but Kale had put 8 houses under contract. What's amazing is the following month, he put 8 under contract just in that 1 month, right? So that's why he's done so much more. But point being is at this time we spent $20,000 on marketing, we put 8 houses under contract. She about broke even because that was her cost of marketing, and she put 1 house under contract. So we broke it. I said, why is that? We spent about the same amount of money. You took a lot longer, put a lot less under contract. She was a smart person, had been in the business a long time. So what I did is I came up with this what's missing checklist, right? And this is about, I think we're about done here. And I just realized these are the main things that I see people doing wrong in their business when they're not having success. What this person was doing was I just broke it down. I said, okay, how are you taking your calls? She wasn't taking her calls live. That's okay. I mean, you can still buy houses. But I talked to Kel. I said, Kel, how many houses would you not have bought out of those 6 if you didn't take them live? He said at least 1, probably 2. Okay, so then we'd be down to 4 or 5 versus the 6, right? And then I said, okay, now these are kind of all over, but I asked a few other questions. Her follow-up wasn't that great. She would call these guys back like 1 to 2 days later. And then even then, she wasn't hitting the follow-up. And I said to Cass, okay, how many houses would you have bought if you weren't doing the follow-up you're doing? And he's like 4 less. You know, so it's basically like between not taking the calls live, not doing the follow-up, we would have probably bought 1 too, right? So we would have been in the same boat as her. So it was the difference of, I'm gonna go back to that really quick. It was a difference of making nothing. Oops. Oh man. It was a difference between making nothing and making about $150,000 off of $20,000, right? Yes.
What do you mean by takes calls live?
Meaning he tries to take all of his calls live. Like when a seller calls, he's answering the phone. Versus she has to go to voicemail. Now granted, sometimes he's on the phone and it has to go to voicemail, but he calls him right back. Not 24 to 48 hours later. Okay, so here this individual was about to quit. The only reason she even closed that 1 deal is because she joined my group and we were able to help her out and she got 1 deal. But this individual was about to give up on this business because she wasn't doing a few little things right.
Easy tweaks.
Tiny little tweaks is the difference between her making nothing and making $150,000, which would change her life. Right? Tiny things, guys. It's the small things that really count. Okay, so the reason I put, you have after repaired value, I see a lot of people who, they're either too high or too low on their, yeah.
I tell you something about taking calls live. So the way Daryl and I have it set up, it rings to my phone first, and if I can't get
That's
it,
awesome.
It rings to his phone, and if he can't get it, it rings to our assistant. It is that important.
Yes.
A live person taking
And that is exactly, that's exactly what we're going to start doing with this new guy we hired as well. Okay. A lot of people though, after repaired values, like, oh, I want to be conservative, which, okay, I get being conservative, but if you're conservative in your after repaired values, you're conservative in your repairs, you're conservative in your margins, guess what? You're going to have a hard time buying houses, right? You got to nail the ARV, you got to be pretty dang close on the repairs, and then you can decide what you want your margins to be. And then you can adjust accordingly, and if you need to find better financing to do what you got to do or become a better negotiator or something, right? Find a way. Okay, so anyway, I'm not going to go over all these. You guys get it, right? Small things. Okay, so we got one more video here. Actually, this one I don't know. Oh, there we go.
Okay, here's the deal. If you want to be successful, here's the thing you have to. You have to jump. There is no way around it. You have to jump. Every successful person has jumped. You got to jump. You got to take a leap of faith. You got to dash off that cliff, and you got to jump out there as far as you can. Now, a lot of times you stand on the cliff of life and you see other people soaring by, gliding down like a bird flying through the air. They going over to the south of France. You see them on a boat somewhere. You see their family vacationing here, their family vacationing there. You see them dressing like this. You see them in New York, then you see them in London. They flying by. You know why? It's because their parachute open. But the only way to get your parachute to open so you can soar, you got to jump. Now here's the problem. Here's the problem, my friends. When you jump, I can assure you one thing. You listening? I promise you this. Your parachute will not open right away. No, that's the fear part. I promise you your parachute will not open right away. You're going to hit them sides and them rocks. You're going to tear your back out on them cliffs. You're going to cut yourself. You're going to get wounded. You're going to get some tears and stuff like that. But eventually, the parachute will open and you'll be soaring. But here's the other caveat. Let me teach you this right here. If you do not jump, I promise you one thing. Your parachute will never open. So you're safe, but you'll never soar. You got to jump. I got to jump.
What do you guys think? Do you want to be safe or do you want to soar? All right? I mean, you can be safe. Isn't very fun though. All right? So The only worse thing than not jumping at all is jumping without a parachute. So we'll see you guys Saturday. All right, that's it. Thanks, guys. Sorry, I went a little long, but.
No, that's great. Thank you so much, Justin.
Guys, did you get a lot out of that? All right, can you thank Justin for us one more time? He just delivers so much. Thank you. And he's one of those people, you really should follow him, and if you are inspired and you're ready to jump and you want to get the parachute, this man knows how to teach you how to pack your parachute. So, I mean, we learn from each other. We go to his stuff. We learn from him. He'll ask us questions. We probably ask him more questions, right? He's been around a while, and he's doing this right now. This is what makes him such a great mentor. We always say this: look for the folks, and this is who we started to learn from when things started to work. Is the people that you want to learn from? They made their money in what it is you want to learn, right? And they're still making their money right now doing what they're teaching. Justin's one of these people, and he's not only really good at what he does, he's a phenomenal mentor and teacher. He's really good at showing you how to do it. So, thank you, Justin. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Another comment on that as well is, he's one of few people who speaks freely and gives out information. He's not afraid because he thinks of everybody as competition. We actually think of everybody in this room as partners, and that's a huge stepping stone as well that we got out of this. So I just want to thank you, Justin.
Yeah, thanks so much.
If you guys want, youtube.com, San Diego Invest Club. We do videotape this, so if you missed anything, you can go back. Find us at SanDiegoInvestmentClub.com. That'll take us over to Meetup. And then, of course, like us and become our friends on Facebook. There's actually a lot of deals that go on Facebook as well, so those are good resources. Also, Imran and I, KukinandClark.com, Facebook.com, and YouTube. So, I don't know why this is not working. So if you do go to Meetup or SanDiegoInvestmentClub.com, right up there at the top there's a More tab, and then there's going to be files. So you can see the slides and some other content information from years back, actually.
Yeah, we put all kinds of stuff in there. So everything that folks like Justin give us, so be careful what you give us, because we're going to give it right back to all of you. We make it available to everybody. So.
All right. So if you guys did enjoy this, if you guys learned something, give us 5 stars. We'd appreciate it. It just allows more people to find us, and more people like yourselves can come join us. Bring friends. And again, network after the bar. So
yeah, so we're all hanging around. Daryl and I took over this club. You mentioned Reggie Lau. He used to run this club. But like Justin, we started going to all the clubs, and this is one where we just network so much, and it really is important. So you get the education, you get your nuggets coming here, but I'll tell you where you're going to really start making money and doing deals is the folks that don't go right home, but that hang out and talk and make the connections.
Right here. He just showed a deal profile from somebody that was in this room.
Yeah.
Perfect example.
We were wondering why they didn't come to us with that deal.
Right.
See? So, so not everybody's always going to come to us. It's going to, things happen, right? And I mean, you guys made over $50,000 on that, and that was just from hanging out and talking to people here, and it came your way. So, and that's, we attributed at least a couple $100,000 to the 1 year, and we weren't even the owners of the club. It was just from showing up and networking. So we're going to be out there, network.
So show up next month. We'll see you guys on November 6th. Thank you.